Hi all, I just wanted to record a video of some exploration to see if we can add some more adjustability to the roof rack crossbar situation on the Jeep Grand Cherokee. This is a 2022, it's the L, but it should be the same for some other models from what I have seen. So I'm used to the roof rack kind of clamp situation where you can move these wherever you want, but Grand Cherokee has these little rivnuts that you have to screw into. So you have to get a crossbar set. These are the Rhino Rack crossbars. So there's only one position for the front, and then there's two positions for the rear. You can see it's in the front position now. You can put it in the back position there. You can see that seems fairly narrow for how wide the roof is. When I put it on the rear, it feels a little bit better, but unfortunately my Thule roof box, this is like 2 inches too far for it. So we're gonna try to put some more holes in here to get a little bit more adjustability, a little bit more freedom. Because if you're gonna put the American flag on the side, Jeep, I want some more freedom. If you're not gonna give it to me, I'm gonna take it. So job number one is gonna be getting these rails off so that we can actually see what kind of metal is underneath these to make sure the rivnuts are actually going into something substantial. There's a little notch here, so I'm gonna get this pry tool. Man, that makes me nervous. I don't think I'd want to be doing this with anything 10 years down the road. I could see lots of broken clips. So pull straight up. Fantastic. We're ready to take out these 5 torque screws. So not a whole lot of torque holding those in, so we'll make sure not to over torque them when we put them back together. There is some red Loctite on there, so we'll make sure to put some of that back on when we reinstall, just to make sure that it seals up and it stays put. Okay, let's slide this off. Perfect. There's this hard plastic on the top, and then there's this like softer rubberized disc plastic on the bottom. Push on both sides of those and it pops down. And then there's this one that just, you push it out, helps keep it aligned. There's the top strip. There's that bottom piece. It's good because they all have directional arrows on them, and this is off the right-hand side, so they're all marked right hand on the bottom of it. Moment of truth. Those are going straight into plastic. Seriously, Jeep. I'm gonna be adding a third, maybe in this area. Time to do some measurings. This is forward. So this is my front fixed mounting position, which isn't a pretty good position, but if I want to use this very end mounting position for the rear crossbar. This one's too far forward. So what I want to do is, I'm thinking they mount with 2 holes on the feet of the crossbars. So if I just add another hole about here, I can use the hole that's already here, and then I'll have the ability to change between those 2 positions if I want. I want to measure and see what the possibility of adding something in here would be. And then this middle one, I think it's fine for what it is. It's a little too close to the front for my tastes. So again, with this rear one, it would be nice to have a little bit of adjustability both front and back of where we are. So we could then mount it here, here, or here. Measuring center to center, or it was a little bit easier to measure edge to edge, it's 99.5 millimeters. So, okay, so that's the right edge. All right. I'll measure this a little bit easier. There we go. Yep. See what's underneath here. So this one looks like we should have some room. It's kind of right on that ridge, which I'm not crazy about, but this guy might be a problem. We might pass on that. This one looks good. Oh yeah, look at that. Perfect. Perfect. Okay, I've just decided to do 2 extra holes on each side. So I'll do one here that is a little bit more toward the rear on the front, so that'll give me 2 front positions. And I'll do this one that's more toward the front from the rear, so that'll give me 2 rear positions. This plastic does look pretty stout. I know plastic engineering has come a long way, so I want to trust it. But yeah, it is almost 4 millimeters thick where these are going through. It does go down to 3 millimeters here, but these are countersunk at least 3/4 of a millimeter, if not a full millimeter. So the material that it's actually going in is only 3 thick. So if I don't countersink this as much as I'd like to, just for the finish of it, I want to keep this strong. So I'm just going to go straight through here with no countersink so that it keeps the same 3 millimeter of material that the factory rivnuts are actually in. So I'm going to drill a hole there, just a pilot hole at first, and then I'll get a step bit to get it out to the width of the flat parts of this, and then we'll mark the hexagon and file that out. Okay, so I measured the calipers, the diameter of the flat facets on here, which is about 3/8 of an inch. So I'm going to use the step bit, and I just marked it to make sure I don't go too deep. We have our 3/8 inch hole drilled. I 3D printed this just to see exactly what size hex hole we would need. So it fits perfectly here, but I'm actually going to use this for a drawing template, so I'm going to use the one that's just slightly bigger. see if I can get it on here. I went to Harbor Freight and got these itty bitty files. So I should be able to use those to flatten out those facets so that that hex rivnut fits in there and has something to have a little bit of resistance against. This little file and I became good friends, and we got a hole. Boom. Let's do a spin test. Does not spin, which is perfect. I am going to flatten out this a little bit. I don't want the threads to turn in any because of the change in thickness here. So I'm gonna Dremel this out a little bit. Okay, I've done prettier things, but I think that is exactly what we need. I did get some of these genuine Mopar rivet nuts that have the hex barrel to them, just because if I am going to be changing these crossbars a little bit, I didn't want the chance of the rivnut starting to spin. So the hex definitely helps on that. So hopefully that'll help it even stay put in this plastic a little bit. These weren't too much from an actual Mopar dealer. You can find them stupidly expensive on eBay for like $6 a piece or something, but I think these were around $1, maybe a little bit less a piece through a Mopar dealer. It's part number 6507828AA. Time to put in our rivet nuts. So there's the nut itself. We have the hole ready for it. You can get expensive tools, but I only have a few of these to put in. So this is an M6. So I got an M6 bolt with a head on it that I can stick a hex key in. And then an M6 nut, and then a couple wider washers, fender washers for M6. So now screw that on here. And sometimes it helps to put a little bit of like silicone lube on the threads just to make sure everything turns nicely as you're putting it in. But now you can see we have one that's just, I think this is a 20mm long one, so it goes right to the end. So we want to engage all those threads that we can. And then we'll hold this still and we'll turn this nut and it'll collapse this. Okay, we have the rib nuts in there. You want to be pretty careful with this one if you go here. It is very close. This is once it's compressed, but when it was not compressed, it was like basically touching there. But it still goes in there. I actually got slightly shorter bolts for my roof rack just to make sure that I didn't go out past the end of this rib nut and start to hit that. All right, we're ready to reinstall. I'm just gonna wipe this down, get all this dust and dirt off. Make sure we don't scratch anything when we put the rails back on. Okay, we have the rubberized underside back on. Perfect. Now time for our screws and some red Loctite. Make sure to use the red Loctite, the red 271. They call it permanent, but it's not permanent. You still get it off, but it just holds a little tighter. Now let's get this top cover back on. Get this lined up. We'll just go straight down. We'll do the other side. We now have more options for how to mount our crossbars. So here you can see that we have the option going here in the factory position. We're going slightly back. And if you notice this one's sticking up a little bit, that was my worst rivnut, but it still took nicely on the back side, and this will cover it up just fine. So let's get it bolted on. And then you do want to protect these holes and make it look nicer. You can push these in or give them a little spin and they'll just screw in. So yeah, looks nice. That's much better.